So just how good are the Lions' chances in the NFC?
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in, everybody. We got a Friday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt Derry and you on this Friday, August 15th into Saturday, August 16th. Hope to see some of you tomorrow down at Ford Field. I will be there for Lions and Dolphins preseason game number 3. Detroit and Miami, again, backup buffet. It's going to be backup theater, certainly tomorrow in the contest between the Lions and Dolphins, because the regulars and the starters spent Wednesday and Thursday beating the crap out of each other, or I should say Tuesday and Wednesday beating the crap out of each other in the joint practices. But regardless, we'll have our eyes on some guys, and we'll discuss that coming up momentarily right here on Locked On Lions. We got a call of the day today. Of course, you want to be our call of the day. Just leave a voicemail message at speakpipe.com. That is www.speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page. We will play your call of the day coming up at the end of the show today. Got a Tate Ratledge take that I want to get into. If you missed Mike Sando from yesterday, the quarterback tiers is what he writes every year, the tiers of quarterbacks. He had Jared Goff, of course, second tier, but number 8 overall. If you missed Mike Sando from theathletic.com yesterday, go back and watch it or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. He was awesome. Our good friend Nathan Litke, I always deem the executive producer, got a nice text from Nate. He loved Sando from yesterday. And something that Sando said yesterday resonated with me that I want to lead with coming up momentarily here. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, we've had a good week here on Locked On Lions. We'll see what goes on tomorrow down at Ford Field. Everydayers, we appreciate our everydayers that check in on the podcast daily. Got to give a shout to one of our everydayers, my good buddy Jenna Jackson Wright of Firebird Tavern Frame. Made her first appearance at a Buc-ee's today. The Buc-ee's crew, her, Sam Montgomery, cousin Sam, and Anthony Webby. Congrats to all of you for finally getting down to Buc-ee's. If you haven't been to Buc-ee's before, all right, the gigantic gas station that has everything you need and the greatest breakfast brisket tacos with egg on this planet, the beaver nuggets, which are so good. I hope some of you chime in on the comments on YouTube about Buc-ee's. I didn't check the comments from yesterday after my Taylor Swift take, because I just know how that was going to go. Taylor Swift mentioned Jared Goff, by the way. All right. So for all of you that hate her, which makes no sense, she did reference Jared Goff the other day on the New Heights podcast. All right. Yesterday, Mike Sando was on, and I asked him at the end of the show about the Lions' chances in the NFC. Like, who do you handicap in the NFC that you really like? And Mike had a really interesting take, and I was thinking about it. Mike basically said that, yes, Philadelphia is the defending champs until somebody knocks them off. They're very, very talented. They not only won the NFC last year, but they won the Super Bowl, and they're going to be tough to beat. They got a really good team. But Sando made a point of saying the NFC is pretty wide open, and he really likes the Lions' chances. And he says, despite the fact that they lost Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, they lost Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, both now well-deserved head coaches in this league. Benedict, of course, for the Bears, AG with the New York Football Jets. And then he talked about the Frank Ragnow loss at center and how hard to replace a guy like that. But Sando made a good point. He said the Lions are really good. They got a lot of talent. And if you really look at the rest of the NFC, it's pretty wide open. Philadelphia is the defending champs. Yes. Washington, who, of course, made it to the NFC Championship game last year by beating the Lions. Sando made it a point. He's like, Terry McLaurin situation. You got Jaden Daniels now in his sophomore year. Always more difficult sometimes to repeat what you did as a rookie because now there's film on you for a full season. He talked about the Rams and how everybody is just buttering up their bread with that Rams spread. But guess what? Matthew Stafford is banged up. Matthew Stafford hasn't practiced. They say he's going to be ready for the start of the season. But what if he's not 100%? Jordan Love has his thumb issue in Green Bay. Minnesota has a rookie quarterback basically in J.J. McCarthy, who's been so up and down this training camp so far. Speaking of J.J. McCarthy, by the way, how about that slap on the wrist for Michigan football? This Sharon Moore gets more games suspended. How is he still the head coach? Show cause, 2 years for Sharon Moore. Like, Michigan fans, it's funny. Michigan fans are like, go, Jim Harbaugh, 10-year show cause. He'll never come back to college anyway. Connor Stallions, 8-year show cause. Please, he's a chump. Sharon Moore gets a 2-year show cause, and he's still the coach? How is Sharon Moore the head coach and the athletic director, Ward Manuel, still employed? How is that possible? They're paying like $20-30 million in fines for cheating. That's what they did. They cheated. All right. They won the national championship. They get to keep it. There's no asterisk in the media, in the record books, but they cheated. And Sharon Moore cheated, and he's still the head coach. The AD was part of it. He's still the AD. That's crazy to me. And anyway, I'm actually glad that the current players don't have to deal with it, because I think that would be unfair. I actually agree with that. Anyway, J.J. McCarthy is a question mark in Minnesota. Green Bay, I mentioned who knows with Jordan Love, but that's a really good team. And the division is good. But who else in the NFC really scares you? People like Arizona, but is Arizona ready to win the NFC and go that far? Sando's point is a good one. The AFC is better. The Lions' schedule is going to be very, very difficult. All right. A gauntlet of teams, especially on the road. But you look around the National Football Conference, and, you know, I know there's people that are, like I said, high on the Rams, or maybe they like Seattle, right? The 49ers could make a bounce back, or Tampa Bay. People like Tampa Bay. You know, God bless the Bucks, but the Bucks won it a couple times. They actually have won it a couple times, of course, with Tom Brady, and then years earlier with John Gruden. But I don't think Tampa Bay is as good as Detroit. I think Tampa Bay is good, right? But are they ready to take the next step and be a Super Bowl caliber team with Baker Mayfield? I'm not so sure. And their head coach has never impressed me. So the Lions' chances, I think, are good. The biggest thing that is going to have to take place with this football team is health on defense. That's just going to be a key. I think there's enough depth on offense. And yes, Jared Goff has to stay healthy. You can say that about every team. Kansas City's got to have Mahomes, all right? Baltimore's got to have Lamar. Buffalo's got to have Josh, all right? We get that. But I think defensively, if the Lions can get back some of the guys that they didn't have last year, the guys that they're waiting to get back this year, later in the year, like in Lee McNeil, Josh Pascal, a Mekhi Wingo, a Malcolm Rodriguez, I think they're going to be really, really good. So I loved hearing a national guy, a senior NFL writer, a guy like Mike Sando, I have a tremendous amount of respect for, say that he really still likes the Lions' chances, because I think it is cool nationally to count the Lions out and say, we've seen Detroit be good now for the last 2.5 years. Maybe it's time for somebody else. Maybe I'll pick an Arizona to make that next step. Do you really believe Kyler Murray is going to lead that team very far? I think Arizona's improved. I think they could win the NFC West, but I'm not saying they're as good as Detroit. So I think the Lions do have a very good chance, and we're going to find out. Lions play the Eagles November the 16th on Sunday Night Football. We're going to find out how good that Lions team is come November 16th in Philly. I think that's going to be a tremendous, tremendous football game. So, all right, tomorrow, for those of you going on to Ford Field, like myself, you will be enduring some afternoon football and backups galore. But some guys have something to prove tomorrow and need to put on a good and decent show for the Honolulu Blue and Silver fans that are going to make the trek down to the corner of Brush and Adams. Who are some of those said players? I'm keeping an eye on tomorrow. We'll get into that coming up next. Also, Tate Ratledge gets some love from the head coach, Dan Campbell. All of that right here on a Friday edition of Locked On Lions. And we told you earlier, Locked On Lions today brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone, all right? Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data of visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, if I could speak today, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet, all right? If you've linked your accounts to Monarch Money, you immediately spot a few subscriptions you weren't using. That's a great thing. You can cancel those and save yourself some money. It's all done right there because of our friends at Monarch. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, it's a Friday edition, everybody, of a Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Next week, we'll catch up with a couple of all-stars I'm working on. We're hoping next week, I think next week is the week that Ian Eagle will join us again. Kind of do a yearly thing with Ian toward the end of the summer. The longtime voice of the NFL on CBS does a great job as number 2 play-by-play guy on CBS for NFL football after Jim Nantz. Probably get the Birdman, Ian Eagle, on sometime next week. All right, who to watch for tomorrow when the Lions take on the Fish, the Miami Dolphins, down at Ford Field in preseason game number 3. Number 2 for the Dolphins, number 3 for the Lions. First things first, you know what I loved is a lot of folks, and I saw Colin Cowherd post something about this the other day. A lot of people are jumping all over what Colton Pouncey wrote in theathletic.com the other day about the Lions and Dolphins in the joint practices. Colton said, quote, "That was the most lopsided joint practice I've ever seen." He was talking about Tuesday. Lions dominated both sides. I loved that. The most lopsided joint practice Colton from theathletic.com had ever seen. Lions had a great day on Tuesday. And as I said on Wednesday, you know, it's a great sign. It's a great sign because you just don't know in the preseason how good the real team's going to be, right? Because a lot of these teams don't play their regulars. Dan Campbell now for the last couple of years has not had Jared Goff in a preseason game. He hasn't had Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery or Aiden Hutchinson, any of the main players here in this song and dance out there during the preseason. But here's some guys that I think I'm going to be keeping tabs on tomorrow when I'm down there at Ford Field. The first guy is cornerback Nick Whiteside. A lot of you are saying, well, Nick Whiteside, the local kid? Yes. From Auburn Hills, played at Saginaw Valley, and has moved up the depth chart with the injuries to Khalil Dorsey, to Ennis Rakestraw, and maybe, just maybe, has a chance to be the number 6 corner on the roster when we start the season. You know, you got Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed and Amik Robertson. All right. Khalil Dorsey likely will be back in September or early in the season, maybe before week 1. He's a guy that's gotten better every year. The Lions have Avonte Maddox. They also have Rocky Yassin. Both guys have been interchangeable and have played both cornerback and safety. Rock is more of a corner, but if the Lions want to carry a 6th cornerback, keep an eye on Nick Whiteside. He has played a little bit with the first team defense during the preseason so far, and he's making a name for himself. He's played pretty well. So I want to watch Whiteside tomorrow and see what's out there for him. The other guy to keep an eye on defense tomorrow, and yes, we've said his name ad nauseum, and we've brought his name up for the last few years, and that is Broderick Martin. Can we see something from Broderick Martin? He's trimmed down a little bit. He was a 3rd round pick a couple of years ago. He has not been healthy. And when he's been out there, you just don't know he's out there. I want to see some plays being made on the interior of that defensive line tomorrow from Broderick Martin so that we know, hey, this might be a guy that gets some playing time during the season and can finally kind of justify his draft position. He's got a chance to get released if he doesn't show up and, do a little bit better. So number 98, Broderick Martin. Let's see it, man. Let's see what you got tomorrow. And let's see you get through the backfield a couple times and make some plays. On offense, look, this is a no-brainer, but Hendon Hooker, I mean, come on, dude. Come on. Hendon, what do you got tomorrow? Stop holding the ball so long. Stop fumbling. Stop after your first read, not look at your second or third read. I want to see improvement tomorrow, and it's not likely going to come until the second half from Hendon Hooker. Kyle Allen started the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game. Hooker started last week against Atlanta. All right, Atlanta. Then Hooker, my guess is going to be the backup for Allen this week. And my guess would be that Hooker would start next week against Houston. But let's see something from Hendon here, because it has not been good. And I know there's been some days in practice that he's been better. I know there's been some days where the beat writers have said, oh man, Hendon Hooker looked good today. We want to see it as fans in the game. And he's going to be facing third, fourth, and fifth stringers tomorrow. So hoping for some sort of flashing from Hendon Hooker, and that he's able to do something with his opportunity on this football team. Sione Vaki has been hurt a lot. Hamstring injury. Didn't play in the first two preseason games, but it sounds like after taking part in the joint practices Wednesday and Thursday, Vaki is going to be playing a lot tomorrow. He had a pair of red zone touchdowns on Thursday. And look, I'm not saying Sione Vaki is definitely going to push our guy Craig Reynolds. Come on, Craig, for that third running back spot. But man, would it be nice to see Vaki flash tomorrow, just so we know how deep this running back room is, and if there was ever any kind of an injury, because he's so talented. But I want to see it tomorrow when I head down there. So Whiteside, Martin, Hooker, Vaki. Those are the four guys I'm going to be keeping a close eye and close tabs on tomorrow when this team takes the field against Mike McDaniel's Miami Dolphins. I'm assuming Zach Wilson will get the start. Man, poor Zach Wilson. Great news. Lions offensive line is starting to come into bloom here as we reach middle of August. Taylor Decker is back off the PUP list. Christian Mahogany has really grabbed that left guard spot and ran with it, and you knew he would. I really liked him last year. It appears that Graham Glasgow is going to be the center. He just has good rapport with Jared Goff. It would be very difficult for a rookie to be playing center. But yesterday, Dan Campbell was asked about the offensive line in the joint practices with the Dolphins. And he made it a point to say the following, quote, Tate Ratledge, I thought, looked like a starting NFL guard yesterday. This was Campbell on Thursday talking about Wednesday, which fires me up. Quote, so it's early, that's step one, but the kid's getting better, end quote. This is a great sign. And I watched him a lot in that Atlanta game the other day, and he's huge. Like Tate Ratledge is a beast. And I love the pick. It was my favorite pick of this whole draft. I really liked him in college. I liked the fact that he was there for the Lions to go grab at 57 in the second round. And, if he is at right guard and he's playing next to Penei Sewell and next to Graham Glasgow, he's going to get better. He's a sponge already. He's learning from the veterans. But I love that comment from Dan Campbell. And it's so important because for years we've touched on it. This football team goes as its offensive line goes. And the O-line has been really good for the last few years. Remember when the Lions used to play all these close games, when the Lions had some decent teams, but then found ways to lose at the end, couldn't put teams away, had a 6-point lead with 2 minutes to go. All they needed was one first down, just one. Then you take 4 freaking knees and end this thing. The Lions just couldn't do it. Right? Green Bay Packer Hail Mary game. I was at Ford Field working for the ticket at the time. Like things like that are just a killer. Well, the Lions have been putting games away with their ground game and with their offensive line. And now that they got Ratledge, who I think is going to be really good, and he's already getting some praise from his coach, it's a good sign. So I think he's ready. Dan Campbell thinks he's ready. Again, we still got less than a month, September 7th, when the Lions open up their season at Green Bay on CBS, but it's exciting. It is definitely exciting to just kind of get get Tate Ratledge going. I really thought, and I was wrong, I really thought he was going to be the center of the future. Maybe he will be one day, but at least for right guard right now, he's getting some good praise from his head coach, Dan Campbell. All right, call of the day coming up next. Let's do it and hear from one of our everyday listeners. Again, you want to be our call of the day? You can be by leaving a voicemail at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Oh, but on a Friday, we got to talk a little Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. All right. This year, me and Locked On Lions, we're going to be playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy in the past. All the updates they're rolling out for this year are wild, and they're doing it this month in the best way. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now is the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, folks, we love this time of the show. A lot of times we've been doing this almost 3 times a week. So get your after the game Saturday, send me a voicemail, speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Today, it is time for our call of the day. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Matt, this is Josh Hunt checking in from Grand Blanc, Michigan. Every day are here. Love what you do. Hey, so I had a couple questions for you today. First of 2 questions. Isaac Tesla looked great in the first preseason game. He had a excellent release, excellent route running, and headed into Jameson Williams' contract year. I just have a feeling, we have a lot of mouths to feed on the Lions in terms of contracts, and I just feel like Tesla might be his replacement. He's got certainly the size for it. Seems like the playmaking, but we'll have to see what happens in the future with this next preseason game and what happens with this season with all that. And then secondly, I was at the gym today and I saw a guy wearing a Riley Patterson number 36 jersey. It was pretty random, but hey, to each their own. And I don't want to bring up the kicker list. I'll leave that for you. So I guess my question with this is, if you could pick any Lions player throughout Lions history to get a jersey for, just a random player, who would that be? For this guy, it was Riley Patterson. Anyway, thanks, Matt. Bye.
All right, Josh Hunt checking in, HUNDT. Appreciate you, my brother, and appreciate you being an everyday listener. Random jersey sightings are always fun. Always fun. I see them a lot as a Cleveland Guardians fan. I see them a lot at Progressive Field. Sometimes Tigers, same thing. You see some crazy, I saw Rob Deere jersey or whatever. For Lions, though, for him to go out and see somebody in a Riley Patterson number 36 jersey is pretty hilarious. If I could wear a random jersey, all right, if I could get a jersey that I thought was really, let me do this. Josh was asking about random. First, let me say this. If I was to get a classic jersey, I would get a number 20 Billy Sims. When I was a kid, I just thought Billy Sims was the coolest. And I wasn't even from here. I would see, there was an NFL Films video from 1980. Saviors, Saints, and Sinners is what it was called. And there was a Lions section because they were doing the Spider-Man, Allen, Another One Bites the Dust that year. And Billy Sims was a part of that in 1980. So I would, if I were to get a throwback cool jersey, it would be a Sims 20. If you're talking about random jerseys, like one you would wear, and people would go, oh my gosh, I got to go with my buddy. All right, we're going to have him on the pod. He doesn't really want to come on, but I'm going to pull his leg and arm here. Richard Dirt Jordan. Do you guys remember Dirty Dirt, Richard Jordan, number 99? That's my boy. All right. When I first moved to Detroit, he was pretty close. He was on the team, late 90s, early 2000s, linebacker. And Dirt and I got along great. He's just such a great guy. I would wear a 99 Jordan jersey. That would be my random Lions jersey. I was thinking about Clint Crush Crewalt. Remember the old Crush Crewalt song from DFN days, number 58? That would have been kind of funny. But I got to go with 99, man. Dirt was, the guys loved him. He was just such a great dude. Is a great dude. So that's what I would go with. But if you want to throw yours on social media or on our YouTube comments, I would love to hear some also random jerseys. Maybe you have one. Maybe you're the Riley Patterson guy. If you're the Riley Patterson guy and you were in Grand Blanc and Josh saw you, let me know. That is a random one. And sometimes, like, you know, I've talked to people that are friends with old equipment managers, and guys leave their jerseys around, or somehow they get their hands on an old jersey from a player that, you know, wanted to give it away, or garage sale or estate sale, or sometimes that happens. But if you're going out and getting and buying and paying for a customized 36 Riley Patterson jersey, you probably do need to have your head examined. Although, hey, Jake Bates is a legend. Want to get yourself a Jake Bates jersey? Go for it. All right. Looking forward to tomorrow. I'll be down at Ford Field for Lions and Dolphins. We'll be back on Monday with you to recap it all. Don't forget, tonight, following Tigers and Twins, Jake Riepma has the Locked On Tigers postcast. Just go to Locked On Sports Detroit, wherever you get your podcasts. Look for the Tigers postcast with Jake Riepma. He also hosts the Lions Squad show as well. Check all of that out right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But Monday, we'll have the PFF grades for you. Hopefully be talking about some good news from Saturday, injury-free. And let's see some good football. I know it's preseason. I don't care if they win or lose, but let's see some guys take some steps forward. What do you say tomorrow? All right, back again on Monday with another fresh episode of Locked On Lions.